I have been very surprised on CNN's and Christine Amanpour's indignation in her interview with one of the Danish member of the parliament who tried to hide on CNN television that our parliament today will agree on a law that will leave it up to Danish policemen to confiscate jewelry from refugee people. My wondering is because where have Christine Amanpour been in the years of 2001 to 2011, where the present government also ruled Denmark? We have had more strict immigration rules and foreign laws that can be morally said to be more fascism and evil in its nature than the present jewelry law. These strict immigration laws have resulted in thousands of Danish people with foreign spouses to move to Sweden or Germany, fleeing to Sweden or Germany to be able just to live together with their foreign family. And these people have lost a lot more money than just jewelry or a ring or something like that. As you can see on the map, with the excuse of trying to make immigration rules that prevented Muslim people from entering Denmark, and because they were not able to direct the laws directly because of international laws, then a big number of innocent people were hit and had to flee to Germany and to Sweden. That was the Danish people that had foreign families. Let's take a look on just some of the demands that the government under the leadership of Anders Fogh Rasmussen, the NATO general, assembled during the reign of 2001 to 2011. These laws prevented foreign spouses from the outside of the European Union to live in Denmark with their Danish husband and wife. To obtain a right as a foreign citizen to live in Denmark with your Danish spouse have to comply with the following. 1. Assemble $10,000 and give to the government for a period of minimum 5 years, maybe more. 2. Live in your own real estate. If not, you need to have an unlimited rental contract on an apartment. 3. The living conditions and the size of your apartment or house should live up to several conditions. Among other things, 1 room for each people in house. Separate, suitable kitchens, reasonable size of rooms for sleep, and so on and so on. 4. The foreign spouse who seek to live in Denmark with the Danish man or the Danish wife need to be educated with a university degree. If uneducated, he or she will need to be able to talk Danish on a solid and good ground. 5. Even if the language demands is fulfilled, the foreign spouse also need to have had a relevant normal job in the home country for 2.5 years out of the last 3 years. 6. Both Danish and the foreign people, as opposed the foreign spouse and the Danish citizens, have to be over 24 years old before one of them can get a right to live here. 7. The Danish citizen living here should be able to 100% financially also take care of the foreign spouse. These were just some of the rules which the Danish and foreign couple have to comply with and fulfill. All of them, not just one of them, and all of them have to be fulfilled before the foreign spouse can get a right to live together with the Danish husband or wife. Unless he or she had a very good education, a university degree from outside, then he or she did not have to speak fluently Danish. But otherwise all demands have to be fulfilled. In practical, the language demands actually means that you have to be able to talk Danish before you enter this country at all. It's a little complicated to say, but it's the practical way of seeking visas and seeking resident permits. It actually ends up with the fact that you have to be able to talk Danish before you come in here at all. There's no free time of 1 or 2 years where you can stay here and go to a school or learn that first. No, you have to be able to have so many money so you can put your foreign spouse on a Danish school outside for many months, maybe a year, before he or she can enter Denmark. I would like to comment on just some of the stupid rules the Danish government put up here. The demand for an unlimited renting contract on a rent apartment causes big trouble for many Danish citizens. That is because the amount of public apartments in the big cities is very limited. There is actually no one. If you come from the outside and want to rent such a one for a reasonable price, and that has been a big annoyance for many Danish and foreign couples. If you for example rented a big house outside Copenhagen for 3 or 4 years ahead, then it would not be suitable, and you would not meet the demands from the foreign ministry, foreign udlændingestyrelse in Denmark. The financial demand that you as a Danish citizen have to be able to 100% able to take care of your foreign spouse is of course totally understandable. I have not in my years of being inside this subject met any Danish man or wife that did not think this was reasonable. Of course you have to be able to take care of your foreign spouse if you want to live in Denmark. That is it's just a normal way of thinking, and it is a very sad thing that most Danish people does not know actually that there is a 100% financial demand for a Danish citizen that he or she should take care of her foreign spouse. Nearly all Danish people actually think that the taxpayers is paying for the foreign spouse when he or she comes to Denmark. It has never been so, except that the foreign spouse is entitled to go to hospitals actually. The problem, however, is all the other rules put together and how the Danish ministry in the years of 2001 to 2011 actually put pressure on the different kind of office people that dealt with the cases here to stretch these demands to the limit, so as many as possible would have a no for their application to stay in Denmark. That is the big problem in this subject. The rumors say actually that in the Udlændingestyrelse, the ministry office that dealt with these cases of saying yes or no to an application for resident permit, that there came so much pressure from the ministers up and down to the office people that they refused to put their own names and signing these rejections of applications. Some rumors say also that they had to switch their names, the different office people, sagsbehandler people we say in Danish. So there would be so much confusion if it ever came to a court later on that the court would dismiss the case, so nobody could take responsibility for these more or less illegal rejections. But I don't know if it's true. That is rumors actually. It's not rumors, however, that there was a big corruption case in Denmark in the middle of the zeros, I think it was, where actually some of these people had to, I don't know if they went to jail or not, but they were convicted of corruption. There were some Chinese people that actually bought their right to stay in Denmark. Yes, that is Denmark in the zeros under a right-wing government. This super hardline politic towards foreign people who were married to Danish citizens were only relevant when people were actually present in Denmark at first hand. To enter Denmark and obtaining a visa at all, it was very difficult. The government had thought out all kind of obstructions and obstacles that were meant to give people so much doubt beforehand already abroad that they would give up coming in here at all. For example, I was witness to the fact that early on the desk clerk people in Bangkok on the Danish embassy in Bangkok had actually removed the papers of applications ready in the hall concerning tourist visa. So that meant that when Danish people came with their Thai girlfriend and asked for an application for a tourist visa, they were very angrily asked what they wanted to do in Denmark. And then many Danish men said, yeah, we would like to go to Denmark on a holiday, and who knows, maybe we will marry and stay in Denmark if she likes it. And then suddenly everything would change, because then the embassy could say, then you do not need a tourist visa. If you need to marry your girlfriend, then you have to fill out an application for a resident permit. So they cheat people into to seek a resident permit instead of a tourist visa. And in that way, they could, of course, prevent people from filling out any application at all to come to Denmark, because of course people did not have all the necessary paper to seek a resident permit when they came on a holiday. So that was just some of the smart ways that these embassy people have cheated Danish people all over the world in these zeros. But there was many ways to prevent people from fill out an application for a tourist visa to Denmark. For example, the deposit that the Danish inviting person, the Danish reference person, normally the girlfriend or boyfriend to the foreign people, that they had to put up an amount of $12,000, approximately $10,000 or $12,000 in deposit to the government in the year 2001-2011, if they wanted to invite their foreign friend to Denmark. So that means nobody could come into Denmark unless some people had put up $10,000 or $12,000 in deposit to the government. Well, that should say it all, actually. That imagine that you want to invite your foreign boyfriend or girlfriend to Denmark for just 3 weeks or 1 month's holiday, and even though you sign, you will pay everything, and or even if you had a lot of money in forehand, or the person could pay for himself or something, the referent person still had to put up $10,000 in deposit to the government for a third person to come into Denmark. It's totally absurd. I don't know how these people can go away and not take responsibility for these. It must be illegal in international laws to make something like that. But that is how it worked for 10 years, a whole decade, from 01 to 11. And whatever we think about a deposit to the government, it's needless to say that in practical, it was impossible for many people to do it. I mean, you cannot stand in abroad and make all these paperwork from a computer or a telefax. It's impossible. And you could have done it later when you go home, but then you have to go back again and help your girlfriend or boyfriend back to Denmark again. And they have thought out every kind of thing to make it in practical nearly impossible to invite for example, an Asian people to Denmark. They did change it a little bit later on, actually, the right-wing government, so it became a normal thing that if you were married to the person, then you did not have to put up this 60,000 Danish crowns in deposit if your wife or your husband had to visit you for a 3 weeks holiday in Denmark. However, a little problem with that change were, of course, that it resulted in a lot of very, very fast marriages between a Danish person and a foreign spouse, because then they did not have to go through all the next 6, 7, 8 months of paperwork with putting up the deposit to the government. This big amount of money that the government wanted in deposit for grant out a tourist visa worked in 2 ways. Practically, like I said, partly, like I said, of the practical impossibility to raise it if you stand it out there in the abroad, and also because it worked as a blackmail kind of thing from the Danish government side. The government would seize the 60,000 crowns if the foreign people on holiday in Denmark would marry a Danish person or on his or her holiday. and grant in an application for a resident permit because of that. Then the government would seize the 60,000 crowns. So the thoughts behind it from the government side was, of course, to prevent people of marrying and grant in a resident permit when they were on a tourist holiday inside Denmark. That is normally what we think like an attack on our normal way of living, on our normal citizens' rights, and these free rights that we normally associate with the Danish way of living. To have the government control your possibilities of what you have to do and who you have to marry in that way is, as I see it, is a fascism way of thinking. All these strict rules were pushed forward from the 01, mostly from the side of the Danish Folk Party. We were told as Danish citizens that it was because we had too many Muslim people in Denmark and we needed to make some things that prevent Muslim people from settle in Denmark. My problem with this is that the facts and the numbers of and the estimate of who these strict rules actually were hitting, that does not add up with the background that the Danish Folk Party say and tell us these rules are meant to. Look at this statistic from year 2014. If you disregard the numbers from Syria because of the war situation with a big amount of refugee people, and also disregard Turkey because they have very special integration rules with the European Union and therefore cannot be used in this discussion, then you end up with something like there was 1,433 people from non-Muslim countries that were marrying and tried to get a resident permit in Denmark, and there were somewhat less, about 1,081 people from a Muslim country who was trying to get a resident permit because he or she have been marrying a Danish citizen. Now remember, this statistic mostly show the proportions between whether the foreign spouse is from a non-Muslim country or a Muslim country. Don't forget that because of the very strict rules, then there has been thousands of people that have give up getting a resident permit for their spouses, and they are the ones fleeing away from Denmark. So for every time that the Danish Folk Party and the right-wing government make these stricter and stricter rules, it actually hits down on more people that are not coming from a Muslim country instead of a Muslim country. So since year 2001 I have wondered what went on in the heads of the Danish Folk Party to make these rules, especially when you consider that Denmark is a country where we have tradition for Danish people to go abroad and trying to make businesses and get some success in the Asia world, not at least, or the American world for that sake. When you ask them today why they did it, they will of course come up with a lot of numbers and speculations about how many Muslim people they actually prevented in coming to Denmark by these laws. I suppose the real world is actually a little bit different. Another rule that you can speculate on whether it was meant to hit down on normal Danish people so they could not marry and get a resident permit for their foreign spouse were maybe the 24-year-old rule. We were told by the politicians that the background for this rule were both parties in a marriage should be over 24 years old before one of them could get a resident permit. We were told it was an honorable and sympathetic background. We wanted to prevent Muslim people between 18 and 24 years old to be forced into a marriage that they didn't want to go into, as a forced by their families. But the truth is, it's strange because in itself this law is against the nature of exactly the Danish Folk Party. The Danish Folk Party, this right-wing party, is trying to prevent any Muslim influence and prevent that Muslim people have influence in the way we are living and in the way we make our society here in Denmark. And then they do exactly the opposite with this 24-year-old rule, where we need to solve some of the problems with this Muslim people and making a 24-year-old rule that is hitting down on a lot of Danish people also. That is a strange thing, in my opinion. It would have been much more sensible and much more obvious that the Danish Folk Party should say that it is definitely up to a Muslim girl that have lived here and went through a Danish school system to be able to say no if she's over 18 years old, because you cannot marry if you're younger than that in Denmark. So of course they have to be able to say no themselves to a forced marriage. That is actually what the Danish Folk Party should have said. I am making this video not because I'm necessarily against the politic that seeks to reduce the number of Muslim people settling in Denmark, but people have to know the truth. Please bring up our young children in the public schools and high school with the knowledge of our policy that it is basically forbidden from the start to marry and live with a person from the outside of the union, and it's only if you can live up to certain standards and only if you have many money, and that is only at that time that you can come through all these barriers that our future governments will lay out to prevent foreign people live here as spouses. And the numbers before we saw in the statistic from 2014 does not show how much effort these people who was granted a resident permit, it did not show how much suffering they have been through to get at that stage at all. It is definitely not everybody that can do that. I have myself seen dozens of couples give up in the years of the zeros abroad, and they are not mentioned in any statistic at all. And it will be like that until the Danish politicians one day will be strong enough to say that we want to make our own foreign rules exactly like we want, without influence of the big international institutions. That will of course never happen, because then the right-wing parties in Denmark will have to direct the immigration laws against the people they say they are supposed to hit down on. And that will mean that we will see a big rising in foreign spouses settling down in Denmark again. But as it has been the last 15 years, especially under the right-wing government, then it is clearly to see that it is without a doubt a plus for them that so many Asian people, South American people, Brazil, Russians, and Eastern European people have been hit. But I would like to be proven wrong, of course. So to round up and come back to the start, in the years 01 to 11, thousands of Danish people had to flee to Sweden to be able to live with their foreign families. Some of them protected by the EU laws of working people crossing borders, but most of them protected by the national foreign law of Sweden. Thousands of Danish citizens have lived in all kind of small Swedish country towns in Skåne the last 15 years, just like the Jewish people did during the Nazi occupation in the 40s of Denmark. Jewish people also had to flee to Sweden. And same like that time, then we can also be very lucky and appreciate how Sweden has opened its arms towards the many refugees from Denmark also. The former Prime Minister of Sweden were ridiculed when he said Sweden were a superpower of humanity, but actually Sweden have been a power of humanity for thousands of Danish people over a decade. The former government with Helle Thorning-Schmidt definitely deserve some credit for ease up these immigration rules. Not very much, but at least to much better possibilities for Danish people. So she deserves that credit at least.